You're live.
Thank you very much. Welcome everyone to our Public Works Urban Beautification meeting for May the 28th. I'll call the meeting to order. Declarations of conflict of interest.
See none.
See none, thank you. Approval of the agenda?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
did you want to add something there?
No, it's just going to approve it.
No, I approve the agenda.
Just under
Thank
new
you.
business, could I just put signage there, sir? Is that
Okay,
possible? Just a
under-
quick update there, Scott?
Signage, okay. Everybody okay with that?
Sure. Bob, please.
Okay, approval of the agenda then?
Yes.
As it is with the add-on, thank Alana, and seconded by Kevin Ramsey. Adoption of the minutes, April 28th, 2021. Anyone got time to read that today?
Yeah, we got it.
Okay,
Good?
any business arising from those minutes?
No?
See none.
Clear ahead. Reports. 6A, AT funding, that would be Mr. Scott.
Certainly. So as committee is probably well aware, we did make a submission earlier this year to the provincial government for AT funding, for a funding stream that they have. We submitted a request for 9 different locations for funding. And since that application went in, there have been a number of requests also from council residents to add additional streets or additional projects to that funding request list. And the 3 locations are McRae Drive, East Royalty Road, AT Pathway, Towers Road, and an AT Pathway for Wedgwood Pathway. So we're here to get approval from the committee to support us making a second application to the province for AT funding.
I had nothing to, outside of, I did meet with a couple of representatives from the province on that, and basically I thought maybe they had something there, but what they more or less were waiting to see if we were going to add any a request in for funding. So I just said that I'd follow up with you, and when we do, when it gets approved, then we'll forward that down to them. So, yeah, so.
Sure. Is it 50-50, Scott, or what's?
Correct. This is the 50-50 funding stream. Yeah.
Wedgwood Avenue.
That's my word.
Sure.
You're looking at your word, okay.
No,
I just see it.
it's been in for a while, but it's a heavy, that one connects 2 or 3 streets, and it kind of goes on a S, and it also is a very big bus route. And
Trying to visualize where.
it goes between,
Runs parallel to Kensington.
it runs parallel, it goes Browse Lane, it goes
Oh,
from
yes.
Browse over
Yes.
to Francis.
Francis,
Yeah.
Right,
Jack's door.
It's like 4 or 5.
Yeah, it takes in, it's quite a big piece of,
Yeah.
anyway, it's a major cut through for the buses, and there's no sidewalks on either side. And during the last election, people at the door had mentioned that, they felt it was a serious thing, so I've been just waiting my turn.
I think
If it
it's
gets through, goes through, if it don't, it don't. Thank you very much. Yes, Alana?
The 3 additions, the Towers Road, is that the one initially we were gonna hold off until development was
right.
gonna be done, but now we're thinking we should get something?
Well, if we can get the funding, it'll be something to look at, right? But, like I know it was brought up at council the other day, but if you go down and drive down yourself, it's like, we've extended that road as far as we could, right? There's a pathway in each side to walk. It's not like there isn't a pathway for you to walk, but it could be safer. But without doing the water infrastructure work first, there's no more room to even do a makeshift. You'd only be wasting your money because it's, you're going into the ditch. So it's, $1 million project. So we're kind of hoping the province will help out with that. And yes, we don't want to finish it or do it until, because it's so expensive, to have the construction companies come in with their tractors and plows. But it's slowly getting done. Like, I think they're into their second last phase of McQuaid's, development there. I shouldn't even say McQuaid anymore. It's not even there. But so we're hoping that by the time that gets done, we start working on the funding. It'll be ready. So, but it'll be nothing this year.
No, and what about if the reconsideration goes forward and that the roundabout proceeds, is there anything that we should be looking at doing on Angus Drive if like thinking long-term, if that happens,
Well,
like, it's just something.
I think the government is quite willing to work with us on that. As part of that roundabout business, that they would do some infrastructure on Angus Drive to combat that. I don't know how far up, I can't tell you that, but I think they kind of suggested to me that up until the first, what's the first cross street there that comes across? That would be where they would stop. But they had talked about doing infrastructure work there. They've kind of talked to the residents about that too.
Okay, great, thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr.
On
Dunn.
that Towers Road at 18, I will strongly oppose that. For 2 years, we've told that particular councillor that we're not doing it. I mean, this is another double backing, this reverse. We reversed on so many things, people out there are calling us the reverse gang. That issue has been brought up time and time and time again. It's like a kid in a candy store. Just keeps asking and asking and asking, and now we're just going to give in. I will adamantly vote against that.
Well, yes, I mean.
Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed
No.
in the last 2 years, and all
No.
of a sudden we're going to approve
No.
it. I am strongly opposed.
And one other
Start
point.
taking a stand. We have to stand for something.
Yeah, and one other point to be made is, I have got a couple of emails from people in the Sherwood area wanting to talk about the master traffic plan, and some of the questions I like to throw back to the when they do ask, what's going on, I say, well, here's some of the ideas, and one is, if Angus, or if Spencer Drive doesn't go ahead, then it's already going to make a busy road even busier. That's one question for the residents to be thinking about when we talk about Spencer Drive. And the other is, are people okay with Spencer Drive if they know Ash won't become a throughway? So these are questions that need to be answered before we do any infrastructure work, right? So we need to, it's a slow process, but I think, if Spencer Drive is going to be the road, well, then that's probably the road we should be putting the infrastructure on, the cycle lane,
So why are we putting it on Tower Road then? That's what this is saying. Spencer Drive isn't even...
No, because we don't know if Spencer's even going to be going ahead, right? But
My issue is that we've said no for 2 years, and suddenly on this date, we're saying yes.
But we've always said no because there's no funding.
Yeah.
Right.
No, that's not necessarily so.
Right.
Also no, because there's future construction there.
Right,
Yeah.
but so this is just one other part of the process. Before, it's great to say, okay, construction's done now, but we got no money.
Yeah.
So we're just saying, let's ask for money. It isn't a priority, it's not the priority to do.
No.
It all depends on how much money the government want to throw at us, right? But
But at the end of the day...
at the end of the day, until the construction's done, I mean, Public Works always stated that we weren't going to do any work on Towers Road until all the construction was done. And we said that 2 years ago.
We didn't say we were going to do I don't believe we said we were going to do the work. We're not going to do anything until the construction's done.
Right.
Then that's a new era of, are we going to do anything
Yeah.
there? I look at that road, seriously, I look at that road, Mr. Chair. I don't see anything wrong with that road. I walk out there a lot. I've never had anybody come to me saying, Mike, we're going to do something with that Towers Road. Someone's going to get their car there. I'm sorry to go on like this, but this is just another episode of knuckle under.
Point well taken.
Because of being just tenacious. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
I know that Councillor Duffy's, has referred to the council as, we're not doing this, we're reversing our decision. Look at Angus Drive, third hit at this is the third time we're at this issue.
Yep.
And we got so many issues coming at us because of political reasons and other reasons. So it's definitely a council that has to work within the context that we're in. And we have to keep reminding ourselves this is COVID-19. Just got off the meeting with the Atlantic Mayors Congress. Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, they're making amends to adapt to the situation we're into because of the pandemic. But, you can talk about Angus Drive or St. Peter's Road, or you can talk about Towers Road. I've been down that road. I've spoken to people that live up in Ash Drive. It's dangerous. And are we going to wait until someone gets hit, as what happened out by the university back in the 80s when the young boy was killed by a car? Do we wait until that? Look, Councillor Duff, I understand, and I know, the councillor from the area is promoting his project. It's not just about his project. Wedgwood, I believe it's Wedgwood Drive. Great example where we have to do something. But that's a city project. We could make our own AT pathway there too, Scott. We could put money aside to go into these neighborhoods that have been there during the old Parkdale days and now the amalgamated city. So, you know, we have the means to make these projects go ahead. I agree with the chair. Let's put it in as a second option or a second request for funding. And Councillor Duffy, look, again, we're trying to, look, this whole issue on Towers Road got off the rails when the council from the area went to the newspaper, made the announcement, even before your committee, as you were previous chair.
We told him he could have a neighborhood meeting if he wanted to.
But he made announcements which was premature and not responsible on his part. So anyways, let's put that aside, address the issue, and I think you see it as an issue, Mr. Chair, and I'm going to support it.
Yeah.
But Mr. Chair, could I just intersect for 1 second? Everything you've said, your worship,
Yes?
none of the past 2 years, none of what you have said there changes any of the thinking of the last 2 years. Nothing has changed, so you're saying that other people are amending things, well, whatever. But for 2 years, we've said, not now, this is not going to be considered now, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, nothing has changed, but now we're going to do it for them.
No, a lot, in terms of what has changed, is that we know there's a situation down there, Councillor.
No, there's not, that's what I'm telling you.
But you may think there isn't, but the people that want that road will tell
When
you.
did the situation arise? Last week? 10 days ago?
No, it arose when the development started on that south part of Towers Road.
Correct.
And we never addressed it. But do we wait until someone is hit by a car to say, okay, let's take action? I don't think we should wait until that to happen.
For 2 years, we've been saying, not now, and all of a sudden, nothing has changed, nothing at all has changed. But we're saying today, yes, maybe we'll do it.
Well,
But Mr. Chair, but my rationale is that, do we wait until someone is hit? I wouldn't shrug that off, Councillor.
But-
And I wouldn't say that either, Councillor.
but I think,
Of course not.
if I may intervene here, boys, I think at the end of the day, that area has some issues, right? They've been waiting, and all my thought was on this, that if we're, like, for example, there are other areas that are looking for, because of the growth, are looking for active transportation. For me, I think it would be wise to say, look, let's start looking at the funding. Because why is Belvedere Roundabout not done, really? Because we kept waiting for the funding. Every time,
Fire station.
10 years, funding, right? So, all I'm saying is that when the construction is done, it would be nice to be able to have a plan moving forward. Is it going to get done or not? Like, and then there's the other half of sure which says, well, the Matador Road's an issue, right? I mean, it's a traffic problem there and very poor sidewalks on that street as well. So, you know, that whole area needs to be looked at, and Spencer Drive is included in that, but at the end of the day, we need some infrastructure money from the province to say, you know, we need something done here, and maybe the master traffic plan might have an edge. I mean, you know, if Spencer becomes the road, well then Towers Road won't be quite as busy, right?
So why would you
So
go in now? Why
that's
don't you
right.
wait and see?
But no one says we're doing it, Mike, right? All we're doing is looking for
Terry,
funding.
we all realize it's going to be here if you weren't planning on doing it.
I'm not planning on doing it this year
Oh, this you,
or next year, probably, because depending on
The funding.
what funding. I mean, unfortunately for us too, the other side of the fence, Mike, is the government's been telling us where to spend the money anyway, which is very unfair. I mean, there's active transportation plans in the work from the province, but when they go to give us the money, we want it to go there.
but
So,
50% of it would be our money, correct?
right.
So we're equal.
But we can't do it without the other 50%. So we give in and say we're gonna do that road. So there's a pretty good chance whatever funding we get this year is already spoken for.
Yeah, well, I would think so.
But as chair of this and as our committee, all we can do is move forward and say we are trying to get this project done. And it would be nice to have the money there when it is time.
I'm saying it's just another walk back, just like the
Yeah.
others were. Trainer Drive, Trainer Street was a walk back.
How
No,
long can we keep the
again,
money?
Councillor Duffy, they're the residents speaking on behalf of their neighborhood, and we have to remember, the city is made up of neighborhoods.
We already
It's all
dealt with it, though, Your
harmonious
Worship.
development.
We already dealt with it, we're back visiting it again.
Well, you know what? It doesn't bother me because that's.
Well, it bothers me because
we
we're
think it-
always double backing, and this is just another double back. Because somebody is tenacious enough to keep the ball going. I mean, we went over this maybe 3 months ago at budget time.
Right.
It wasn't involved, and what has changed? Tell me what has changed. Nothing has changed.
No.
We made decisions and we back off on them,
Yeah.
and that's what we're doing here.
Yeah.
And the fire hall was another one. And this is one here. Trainer Street was another one. There's another Mel's out there, another one.
Ames Drive.
Yeah, we're always in reverse, we're never driving forward.
But again, Mr. Chair, like, to make those comparisons to what we're dealing with right now, Angus Drive and Mel's is a whole separate issue because it's a provincial road. That's a provincial road. Tell me, is Towers Road our road?
It is.
It's our road. Well, let's deal with that. That's
We
our
already dealt
road.
with it.
And obviously, the councillor from the area doesn't think that we've dealt with it in a responsible way, and that's why he keeps bringing it up. All this is asking is to put it on the list. If I looked at 1, 2, and 3, number 1 would be my preference because McCrae Drive has a pathway, Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
that is like a bridge to nowhere.
Yeah.
It just stops,
Yeah.
and you're in the ditches.
Yeah.
Like, that would be a priority
Yeah.
for me, if we get
Yeah.
additional
And,
AMP money.
But to add to that, Mr. Mayor, that's another issue that, again, active transportation and ditch infill are two different subjects, and the work that needs to be done out of McCrae is no different than the road on Towers Road, is there needs to be water infrastructure work done first. Stormwater management has to be done before we can ever put an active transportation path on top of any of it. So that's why the funding is there, to see what kind of money they're gonna throw at us. They might not, they might say no to all of it, I don't know, but, it's just projects that are in the works, it's gonna happen at some point, we need to know if there's gonna be funding. Same as the roundabout at Belvedere, like, we're gonna wait for somebody to get killed, we already seen a bicycle guy get hit there, and again, it just keeps falling on deaf ears, so, these projects, I'm just trying to push ahead, to have the government give us some recognition, and,
Usually when you're prioritizing something,
Right.
you have a criteria.
we already have the
I haven't
council
seen a
approved,
criteria.
council has approved our list,
Not with these three.
right?
These are additional.
Yeah, these are additional.
None of these
but-
additionals.
Yeah, but it doesn't say we're doing it this year. All we're asking for is future funding. Is there going to be any money for those projects? If not, then council will have a decision to make. Are we going to do that road on our own?
I didn't think money was ever an issue
No?
on Towers Road.
Well, it's one
There's always
point.
lots of money around.
Well, we've never really talked about the engineering design, but I think it's
No.
1.2, 1.4 million.
No, we have an engineer design, though, it's got.
Yeah. it
We
needs
used
to
for
be.
one, we used, it was,
1.4 million.
it was presented to the neighbors out there in Sherwood at the Cody Banks back in 2019.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
there's speaker waiting.
Yeah, good. Okay, Alana, go ahead.
I think he was.
Okay, sorry.
No, I just wondered if we add these 3 on the list and we ask for the funding, and as you say, Mr. Chair, we will be done this year or might not be done next year, how long can we sit on that funding?
Well, it's not.
Like, is it there for 5 years?
That's,
Or, you
that's
know,
up to the province at the end of the day, once we have an
Yes.
agreement with them.
I mean, would you lose your funding, like, if it isn't done in a certain
They're,
time period? is
they're
what I'm asking.
yes, they do put constraints on time periods, but again, we would have to see whenever they approve the project, you know, if we have this list in and, you know, they don't wait to make the decision until next year, they usually give you at least 1 year, if not 2 years, to complete the project, depending on the size of it. And it all depends on they can depend on a number of things, but we would have to explore that when and if they do approve it, what the deadlines would be on
The
that
amount of
funding.
money that's going to come.
Just follow up, with that, I'm sorry, Councillor.
Yeah, just the amount of money that's going to come would be the big.
Yeah, it's just that, and I'm back to Councillor Duffy's comments too, which is true, if we're not gonna do it, or there's nothing in the plans right away, like, why should it be on the list, I guess is what I'm saying. If Towers Road is not gonna look at in the next year, up to 2 years, why not wait until, see if there's funding, when we're ready to go, if Spencer Drive happens to work out, Mr. Chair, or something else, right? You know, it's up in the air with this Towers Road thing. And I understand the traffic out there and all that stuff, but it just, like, I would rather do the other two, and then if there is funding for Towers Road,
Yeah.
I mean, revisit it again.
Well, I don't think Towers Road is being made a priority. We're just putting in the projects to say if there's funding available coming down the pipe, and then we'll go from there. Well, will depend on what funding is available and what connection they want to make with the funding is, they're probably going to ask for McCray Drive. So, let's move on. Oh, sorry, Alana. Sorry, Alana.
So,
Councilor Lynn,
back at our previous council meeting, Councilor Rivard threw a suggestion about Towers Road. So I took the liberty to go out and take a look at Towers Road, at what his idea was. And that was, right now, you can walk on each side, but it's really narrow. So you remove those paint lines and only have walking on one side, so it's wider. So that for short term, it can address the safety, so that it's wider area to walk, but you can just walk on one side. And instead, let's concentrate out on Councilor McCabe's ward. That's the fastest growing ward we've got lately. They need some more pathways. Why don't we add another pathway for the needs that are out there, like along the lane of Portland? There's just tons of places out there that need pathways, but we can still then address the safety of Towers Road.
Yeah,
It's just a
and,
suggestion.
okay.
wider sidewalk, type deal.
Yes,
But I- but I guess my-
You know, and it's inexpensive, but we could do it right away.
Correct.
Go ahead, Mr. Epps.
Unfortunately, we can't do that because of safety, because we would be encouraging people to walk against traffic, or walk with their back to traffic, which is against the Motor Vehicle Act. So pedestrians have to be on a sidewalk that's separated from the roadway to be able to walk with their back to traffic, because that sidewalk 6-inch gap or the curb there does give them some safety, and they're a bit away from the road or from the laneway. But yes, to have them on the side of the road, technically can't encourage that. So for us to put those lines out there, we're taking liability out there, and we could be held quite liable for any accidents that occur.
So, if I can, just on that, could you put a barricade and then people can walk from, like, just a, you know, just a barricade that's 3 feet high?
It's something we could look at if we wanted to get into that, but then we're getting into costs to have those manufactured, which we don't have anything of that nature. So it's something, do we want to start looking at putting costs into something that's temporary, or do we want to put those costs actually towards the the best solution for that area?
But that lends
Yeah.
itself to what Councilor Duffy said, is are we, if we're applying for it now, we're saying that it's ahead of some of the ever needed pathways that are needed out in Councilor McCabe's ward.
Right, and we have the pathways on it for her ward here on this, McCray, East Royalty Road as well. That's on this list as well. Yeah.
But to be fair, and I tell this I said it to the MLAs, and I said it to Councilor McCabe as well. She's making noise, and it seems like that should be the priority, but I can guarantee you, there's streets in Councilor Ramsey's ward that's been around, in my ward that's been around, in Mike's ward that's been around for a long, long time, and we got no sidewalks.
So should that be a priority then over Towers?
Well, that's what I'm just saying, like, for years, we were just told, no, there's no money for that stuff, so you're just gonna have to go away. And that's what happened, right? Now, all of a sudden, back to transportation now has become an issue, and it seems to be a priority. So when we go looking at spending money, I mean, Councilor McCabe is already getting a stretch going down on her ward already, right? And, you know, so you gotta say, wait, what's fair to council here? Should all the money just go to that ward?
Right.
When there's still many streets in Charlotte don't have any sidewalks?
Sure.
So we gotta, you know, I think you gotta learn to space it out a little bit and give everybody a little piece of the pie, right?
So then is there something else of those three that would be a higher priority than the Towers Road in these three?
Well, and Towers Road really isn't a priority. We're just saying, what we're saying is, the Public Works has said 2 years ago that until the construction work was done, we're not gonna do anything. It'd be a shame to spend that kind of money, 1.2 million, to do that over, and then to find out they come in and bulldozer, right? So, Councilor Trio went upon himself to have a public meeting and got everybody all worked up, but that's no one's fault but his own. And to this day, that's where Mike has come from. We said right from the get-go that, you know, we'll do it, but when that work is done. But in the meantime, knowing how long it takes to get funding, it'd be a shame to finally have the work done, and then we're still sitting here in the thumbs with no money. So I'm just trying to shine a light on and let the councilor and let the people know out there that Towers Road hasn't been forgotten, but there's 2 or 3 things that are happening there that needs to be done before we can start putting our infrastructure in there. One is we need money, and one is we need to wait for the construction to be done. With the Councillor McCabe, unfortunately, she's got a lot of new building going on out there, and the school area we should make sure is looked after. But every piece of roadway all through there, we can't expect her to have all sidewalks, and the rest of us have no sidewalks. So it's, council's got to make a decision once we find out what kind of money we got coming.
Mr. Chair, why don't we take the drastic move of what Councillor Yankoff was maintaining about the walkways? In other words, why don't we just make Towers Road one way from Mount Everett Road down to the back of the mall? And then once the people are down that way, they'll find their own way to get back, coming back towards Mount Everett
That would
Road.
be a way to address the safety issue.
And then you have your wider walkway designated for people, and they will walk with the traffic or walk against the
So
traffic
which way would you have the traffic going? Toward the mall or away from the mall?
towards the mall.
There's a couple issues with that.
I'd say there are.
The emergency side of things, you would never get that approved from like fire code and all that. So we gotta remember there's emergency services that need to have easy access, come and go from
Yeah,
the backside of the mall. When you create one-way streets, there's a lot of research on it, it actually increases speeds. When you have opposing vehicles, it actually slows down traffic. Yeah. So those are always things you need to be aware of when proposing one-way streets, especially on an area like that. If you create a one-way unidirectional, I think you'd see speeds going up quite high.
Yeah. And anyway,
Go ahead there, Councillor.
it's over.
Can I ask
Yep.
Mr. Adams
Yep.
a question? You get to wave a magic wand.
Mhm.
Tell me how we could address in an inexpensive way the
Mhm.
safety issues of Towers Road without adding it to the funding list right now, since we don't know what's happening. What could we do short-term to address the safety? And then the second part of that would be, what is another area in Charlottetown that we could add instead of number 2 for Towers Road?
So glad you brought that up. So one thing we're doing right now, I have summer students, and what they're working on is they're actually going through and identifying every single street in the city that does not have a sidewalk or an AT pathway yet. Because what I want to do is to paint a picture for the committee and council here. This is how much infrastructure is lacking, for lack of a better word, around the city for pedestrians and cyclists and runners. And then we're going to try to put a ballpark figure. What it would cost in today's dollars to build that? And the goal would be to bring that to council to say, here's what the kind of dollars we're looking at for future expansion to meet what national guidelines, what national guidelines are telling us. And national guidelines say every road, unless it's a cul-de-sac, should have at least one sidewalk. Major arterials and collector roads should have 2. So places like University Avenue should have a sidewalk on both sides. So things like that, we're looking at bringing that all and putting that all together, and plan to, hopefully next meeting we'll be ready for it, to bring the committee to show where we really are, and then we can have that discussion at that point in time. How do we see this program unfolding? Do we want to start allocating X amount of dollars to start picking away at this list every year, or how do we want to do that? So that's where we're starting with that, to get that discussion. As for a quick fix on this road, we'd have to look a little closer at it, and so maybe I'll take that under advisement, and we'll get back to the committee on some other possible solutions that are low-cost, temporary, efficient ways to reduce
So then
traffic
could we
issues.
defer this part of this report until the next meeting, until you have a
We could, yes, we could always, we could go for it.
Towers
We can make a recommendation just to put an application in just for those 2, the other 2 remaining ones.
Until you.
And then we could put a third one at the end of the day for
Right.
Towers Road if we want to.
I think that's a better idea.
Well, I guess, so what we're saying is that a temporary something temporary would be a better thing to do right now.
Yeah, we can look at what options we have there, yeah.
Mr. Chair, there's also another issue there. There is the right turn. That right turn.
Oh, going,
lane's gone.
right.
Like, if we, and as Scott said, it has to remain as a two-way street because of emergency services. And I know RioCan would like to keep it both ways also. Scott, where are we at with the road between Towers and Spencer?
We expect to be breaking ground next week.
Okay, so that, we're gonna build that road, right?
Right.
Right, between Towers and Spencer. Now, connecting Towers to the Confederation Trail is, I believe, an important step forward. There are sidewalks going out on Mount Everett Road, correct?
Yes, on the opposite side of it.
On the opposite side.
On the opposite.
Like, it's a connector, this is a connector to the Confederation Trail. As for Spencer Drive and the extension of that, how long that's gonna take?
Oh, who knows?
That's down the road. I know we've purchased the land.
Yeah.
But we've land banked it, not for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or next week.
All right.
It's-
Yeah.
Like, before all that, before we see any ground breaking on the extension Spencer Drive,
Oh, yeah.
who knows when that's gonna,
Could be 10 years.
could be, because our studies are out to 2040, right?
Yes, 2041.
So all it is it's just a request for funding. I'd like to leave it.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Could I ask one question of Mr. Adams? If you
Yes,
can do
yeah,
a bit more work on this. Mr. Adams, would you contact the police department and ask them in the last 5 years, how many incidents have been on the Towers Road? Or vehicle on vehicle, or vehicle on person? Let's see what the numbers are, you know.
Yeah. And I guess at the end of the day, I'm gonna say one last thing, we'll move on, is this is the reason why when we wanna buy a road, we want it to be up to code,
Yeah.
right? This is the very reason, because we got this road, it was
Lot of
a
road. no-
too bit of a
didn't buy
road,
it.
and we did what we could, we repaved it, we widened it, we put the lines down, I mean, it's not like we haven't spent money on Towers Road, but it's still not up to snuff. So that's, you know, at the end of the day, you know, when we take roads on, we want to make sure we're buying them.
Our
with-
pain, his gain.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So, anyway, moving on, thank you very much, everybody, great input, great discussion. Scott,
Yeah, so
I think,
highway is, that's third on the list.
so was,
We looked at the other two first?
so let me put it this way, does the committee prefer to look at a short-term fix and move the funding away? I put that to another time, because it isn't going to be done anyway, and the short-term would be something that would be more immediate. Is that what most of the committee would like to
Short-term
see?
fix, yes, for now.
For now.
But long-term fix
And,
is
and-
active transfer.
Oh, yeah.
We'll get Mr. Adams to come back with what that.
Yes.
Right. Okay,
Maybe
good.
identify what that third,
Right.
what, like you said, you mentioned
Yeah.
sidewalks in your area.
Yeah,
so-
well, there's all this, yeah, and Scott's working on that as well. Okay, you good, Wells?
So are we leaving McCray?
Pardon?
This list, 1, 2, 3, or are we just putting it on hold? What's the clarification?
Well, I think what the committee's saying is Towers Road, we're gonna keep the funding application in, but Towers Road, is more immediate to find a quick fix for it than to wait, because this funding, who knows what's gonna come with it? I mean, there's probably nothing gonna come out of this funding for a year or two, yeah.
It's almost a half million
Yeah.
dollars from the
Just
feds.
for clarity,
Well-
Chair, are we adding the 3 to the bottom of the list? Is that what we're doing or not adding?
It's a second, we're gonna add the other two and leave
Just two?
just
And then
two.
you're gonna
The third one.
identify a third one.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A different third one.
yeah.
So what does that do? 1, McCray Drive, East Royalty Road, AT pathway. 2, Towers Road, AT pathway. 3, Wedgewood Avenue, AT
Right,
pathway.
but we're saying
What are we
take, what we're saying, Towers Road,
Short-term fix?
short-term fix, and it would come off that as one of the 3 funding.
Yes, we would just make an application for McCray, for McCray, East Royalty Road pathway, and Wedgewood Avenue AT pathway after this meeting.
Yeah,
Leaving
and-
Towers Road off that, and Towers Road will be reviewed at a later date to put in an application for funding.
Yeah.
And are you gonna identify another area to add, if you're doing the funding, to have 3? If
We-
we're taking Towers Road off.
We're
that's
just,
fine.
I think for right now, we'll just make an application for those 2 locations, and then when we look at Towers Road again, we can look at other
Along
areas
with
that we
your-
want to add additional requests for funding from the
Yeah,
province.
with your engineer and stuff,
Yep.
students.
So,
Yeah, so just to,
I apologize, Mr. Chair, as part of your review, then, and one option might be able to be done, the candlestick orange stick along that whole corridor may be able to separate it.
Yeah, that's an option for sure.
And also make that, as Councillor and Yankoff said, take part of the other side with the paint lines, so you could have 10 feet there without a problem at all, with marking the lines and using those candlesticks all the way down. And that way they protect people on the inside.
Yeah.
Can you look at that?
We're gonna look at.
That might be the
budget
quick
absolutely.
fix.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
okay, good, great.
Again, so we're moving Towers Road.
You're off the
Yeah.
Totally disagree,
funding,
totally disagree, but hey.
Off the
that's
funding.
wish. Somebody's wish it is.
well,
It has to be
it
addressed.
has to be addressed, but again, you can't do it all at once, right?
No, I know,
Right?
that's why,
But-
1, 2, 3.
But we are gonna do a quick fix to it and get the other part of the road fixed for this year, going from Towers to Spencer. And then next year, we'll put the funding in and hopefully by that time, the development will be near somewhere light at the end of the tunnel, right? And then go from there.
Well, I can tell you, Mr. Chair, I've heard from the residents that live in Sheerdale, they want something there that's safer, this short-term fix, that's a great idea, but I think that's a path forward to addressing the issue, which is an active transportation pathway from Mount Everett Road to the Confederation Trail, which is on the Towers, at the end of Towers
Yeah.
Road. So the resolution will read, one, is this a resolution or just information?
Do we have to go to council for the application? So then,
yeah.
yes, so it'll just be the two locations.
You're just gonna put the two items in.
Yeah.
You already have one list gone through, so if you're adding to the
And-
list, then obviously council has to.
Yeah.
refer those things.
And I hate to open this up, but anyway, just before we go, so at what point though, Mr. Mayor, do we look at Brackley Point Road's
Yeah.
multi-purpose path there?
Yeah.
Right? So maybe the Towers Road and the Mount Everett Road piece could be a funding model by itself, right? Like the cycling lane on Brackley Point Road is,
Or a Mount Everett.
Mount Everett Road is terrible,
Yeah, I
right?
know.
So maybe in the next set of funding we do, we look at Towers Road and Mount Everett Road.
Or, Mr. Chair, as Scott is proposing for University Avenue from Euston to Allen,
Right.
that the east side sidewalk, which is on the same side as the
Which
old
is on the
Protestant
same side.
cemetery, would be converted into an active transportation pathway, right?
Correct.
Could we not look at doing that for Mount Everett Road?
Yep.
Instead of a sidewalk,
That might
it's
be-
an AET pathway, correct?
Absolutely.
That could be perhaps the
And
best
that could
idea.
tie into a pathway
Yeah.
stretching from Mount Everett Road down to the end of Towers Road. That's all I'm saying.
That would be safe.
These AT pathways, sidewalks, look, we just have to share them more. We really do.
I agree.
So is that a road you want to add to this list?
No.
No.
Well, I'd like to, but we get,
Sure.
unless
No,
we
not,
find a bunch of
well,
money.
what we're saying is there isn't funding, like, for that this year, probably, right? That's gonna be a major, that could be a funding by itself, right? That and Towers Road would be a major funding project, right? So if we do this immediate now to get Towers Road residents, and say do that quick, and then next year apply to do Mount Everett Road and Towers Road with active transportation. Okay, all right, let's move on. CNIB presentation to council. Scott, do you wanna go with that, or do you want me to talk about it?
I guess,
Doesn't matter.
if you want, yeah, you can go right
Yeah,
ahead.
so part of our civic board of persons with disabilities, we had a special meeting, a while ago there, well, a month ago now, almost, well, actually, sorry, it was our regular monthly meeting that we had CNIB, and we've decided as a group that we were going to, bring in various different groups, like the next one, I think, is the fire department, and then after that, I think it's the ambulances and emergency services, that type of thing. So, we brought them in, and boy, did I ever get my eyes opened up. And as a council, I think we should hear from them. So my suggestion was to bring it to Public Works, to move it forward, to ask, to have council, get the same presentation. So that when future infrastructure projects, we're really lacking. I never realized how bad we're lacking when it comes to impairment and accessibility when it comes to these folks. And it's great to say, I would argue, well, gee, there's a thing over there for them to push, but I never realized that in their training that works against everything that they're trained, and you know, and Scott added a piece, and that is, we do have some intersections now that are automatically, you don't have to push any button. It'll change the light for you to walk, but for them, they would need that, you know, we have tried that in some places, but anyway, make a long story short, I think as Halifax and some other centers, they've managed to come up with a system that works, and I think projects going forward, we should do the same. So that's what I'm asking, is so I don't really need a vote or anything, it's just a blessing to move it to go forward. Okay, thank you very much. Tender, Scott, it's all you.
Excellent. So we have 5 tenders or resolutions to bring forward to committee for the next council meeting. We'll go through them one by one. So the first one is our supply of hot mix asphalt, tack and cold mix. So this is our patching program that our crews do. This is the price per tons that when we have to pick it up. It's a typical yearly operational expense, and we always work within our budget. There's been a lot of the capital budget. And we do have one stipulation, because it's only, just because it's our own crews picking it up, we do put a radius from how far from our depot that they can be located for us to pick it up. It's just really to reduce our driving time. It adds a lot of time and a lot of waste of time. So unfortunately, it does typically only one bidder on this project, and it is Island Construction, and you see the rates there for each item that we buy from them.
Are they similar to other years, Scott, or the up?
We're up probably about $10, I think it was, $10 or something a ton. I'd have to double check my last year price, but.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
I'm good with it.
Good?
Yep.
The next one on the list is the ready mix concrete aggregate. Again, this is an operational cost. This is for all the repairs to our sidewalks and curb and gutter. 2 bidders on this one, CRM and Spearman's. CRM came out low at the unit prices per each item, as you can see in the list there. So we recommend award to them. We've worked with them for the past number of years and have had a good working relationship with them. The third one on the list is the street resurfacing tender. So this one is a bit of a discussion point for the committee. We had budgeted 1.5 million for a street resurfacing program. Now, of that 1.5, we do have to take about, I think it's about 60,000 what we take off for testing and line painting of this. So it leaves us with 1.44, somewhere in that range. And unfortunately, we came in over budget. Prices did go up this year. We are looking at about a $10 to $12, I believe, per ton of asphalt replacement. Milling also went up, and unfortunately, everything has gone up higher than we had originally anticipated. And a lot of it is just uncertainty with oil. That's the biggest one that causes us a lot of issues. Is we require our contractors to guarantee a price per ton for the entire year, and the price of liquid asphalt can fluctuate by the week in some cases. So they do unfortunately build in security to make sure that they're covering their bases. So I guess this is one that we can look at.
So just for clarity, it's 1650 plus, you said 60,000 for testing?
Correct. Yes.
So
Sure.
your total ask would be 1.72, is that what you're asking?
So yes, we got to figure out how we want to do that. So we've already awarded the testing one that was awarded. It was a carryover from last year. We can so we've already awarded that one.
Stand-in?
No, East Tech, I believe.
Yes.
Yep,
Good.
they're a local company.
Yeah.
So we've been working with them, great working relationship with them. So we are. So I guess the question is, how do we want to make up the difference? So currently left in that budget is about 1.44 million.
How much is the gas tax that's not allocated yet, do you know?
I do not have that number. I believe all our gas tax for this year was allocated, but the second round of gas tax is not.
Did Bill 25 pass your worship?
Bill 25 is now part of Bill C-30,
Did that
the
pass?
Budget Implementation Act with the 2 zones.
Or did it pass it?
No, but they want to pass it before they close the house, the day before Fête de Saint-Jean-Baptiste. So that'd be an extra 3.8?
3.6 or?
Yeah, 3.6, yeah.
Scott, a question on this.
Yep,
The
go ahead.
last couple of years, sorry.
No, no, you're right, yeah, no, no.
Your last paragraph
Mhm.
is based on the resume that the Alvin Construction and past dealings with the Department of Public Works, we all read it anyway, is that the work is ordered to be done properly and completed. We ran into some issues, remember? There, as Councillor Duffy brought up a couple of times too, and I brought it up, that they would mill a street, and then next thing you know, they'd be doing something else, and then the street be left without being resurfaced for 6 weeks, 8 weeks. And I just hope that it's stated here that they're gonna have the work done, but it's gonna be done. Like, how long does the street have to be stayed milled before it can asphalt? be put
So
back on?
some of those are operational decisions, and the reason why is our crews do the curb and gutter, the concrete curb and the concrete sidewalk replacements. And there are times where the contractor will tell us, we have to go out of city for about 4 to 5 weeks. And they'll ask us if we want to mill a road. And if we don't get the road milled before they leave for 4 to 5 weeks, then we're delayed on getting our sidewalk and curb and gutter. So there are some balancing time. A lot of those times, I'd say 95% of the times that happened, there was either rain delay, or we told them to mill it earlier than they would have been outside the contract
Yeah.
agreement, just because we wanted to make sure that we weren't holding them up at the end of the day as well. So some of those times are operational decisions. We've in the past year tried to minimize those as well. And I think last year was much better, if I recall, but I could be wrong. But those are just, when you're trying to balance our crews versus the contractor's needs, we don't want to be delaying them, because sometimes they want to mill and pave with
No,
sort
my
of
point
next
is
day.
too,
It's sort of a challenge, yeah.
Yeah, but just that, my point is,
Yeah.
is that we had our work done on
Mhm.
some streets,
Mhm.
curbing and all,
Yeah.
whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
And then the residents are waiting and waiting
Right.
and waiting, and they're tired of driving over.
Mhm.
And I drove down some of them too.
Yeah.
Like, some are very good when they're milled.
Yeah, yeah.
There's other ones there.
Like, in fact, they're better than when they
Yeah.
had the old pavement on.
Yeah.
It's much smoother. But it's just that when we
Mhm.
get our calls and saying,
Right.
I mean, the sidewalk's been done, the curb's been done, and still 4 weeks for the pavement.
Right.
So-
I mean, what answer can we give them that, well, they're working inside the city, or? you know,
Right.
And
And
that's all.
I
I'm
guess
saying.
every street's a little different.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
if you do get those calls, pass them on to us, and we'll
Okay.
definitely get you an answer
Excellent.
right away.
So, one question I do have is, do we have to put all our eggs in one basket? Like, what if we broke it into 2 separate, like, on a sunny day, if you had 2 crews, like if you had Chapman's doing something, you had Allen Construction doing something, versus say like, you know what I mean? Would there be any benefit to breaking it down,
Maybe that,
maybe?
Mr. Chair, we have to go back to weekend.
Oh, not for this year, but,
So-
yeah, but I'm saying, moving forward, maybe that's a
In
suggestion.
previous years, we have done 2 tenders.
Yeah.
It's not always guaranteed that you're gonna have 2 contractors. Last year, it did
Yeah.
work out that way, but the 2 years before that, we did 2
Yeah.
tenders, and it was the same contractor got both.
Oh, okay.
And this year with only 1.5 million, to break it down
Yeah.
to 7.5, it's not a big contract, so you get economy of scale once to get under $1 million, you
Yeah.
can start to lose
Because
some
I
of those
didn't,
economies.
like, to add to Kevin's, like, I know I got Linden Avenue done,
Mhm.
and it was done, I mean, the snow was falling, and they were still paving, but, and it was okay, it wasn't the best of jobs.
Right. Okay.
And, so, that kind of hurts too.
And just to add to that, Mr. Chair, and we're also putting with utility, to make sure that their work is done
Yeah.
with the piping and all the other aspects.
Yes, utility's been working away at this list. We had a tentative list kind of end of April, when we started reviewing all the work. So they are well ahead right now. They've been testing all their valves, replacing anything that they're doing, going
That's
ahead.
Yeah, they seem to be
And our
saying-
crews have been doing their inspections. We're also well ahead. You've probably seen our sidewalk crews around, our catch basin crew. So this year's has been, we are definitely ahead of the game.
Which is good.
Good, okay,
I'm good with it.
move on.
Just
Yes,
thing to keep in mind, Mr. Chair, when Sobeys paved their top parking lot, it was a $500,000 contract, so, as he said,
Yeah.
1.5, it's a nice contract for the city, but some big contracts.
Yeah.
yeah,
So did we,
So
so we are gonna approve
so we need to,
money to add the extra?
you
Do we
want,
have the
please,
money?
one
Choices are
point,
you either have to stop once you hit that threshold, or council would increase. So I guess it's here for you to decide, do you wish to try to ask council to do all these streets?
Yes.
Or do you want to take off the bottom streets on bottom?
Right. Could we ask,
Good luck with that.
I totally would like to ask for the extra.
Yeah, I think we put in the 1.7.
Feds won't be coming through there.
yeah, 1.72, I guess, the
And
finance.
I will say too, so these, when we try to do our estimates for quantities, when we go to tender, we do try to be slightly over on what we expect to use. We were under our POs last year, I wanna say it was around $100,000, if I'm not mistaken. It just, by how it all worked out, but again, that's based on good management practice, on-site staff, making sure things are being done properly.
I need mine.
Yeah, so a lot of those things, so
That's the high end, 17,
This, we
1.7.
believe so, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we try to factor those in.
It's a
when we
buffer.
put
It's
our
called a
tender.
buffer.
Yeah.
Just
So-
to be clear again, it's this amount plus 60, that's what you're asking for. correct?
This amount
Plus
Brings it to 1.7.
plus 60, yes, is what we need. to increase.
1,710.
Yeah, plus
1.710.
plus taxes.
But we get that back.
Yeah,
So
So-
that should be a motion.
And you only got a budget for 1.4, you said?
so we have 1.5 million.
1.5, okay.
Yeah, so I'll double check all the numbers and
So you're
make sure the
looking at
resolution
$1,000.
is included in that, yeah.
Okay, just take that out.
Okay, so-
Go ahead and pay.
So we're going
How
to,
do we have the money?
so we're going to change, so we need to, that needs to go to finance, right? first?
Yes, yeah, so all these resolutions go to finance anyway.
So we will say street resurfacing, the submission of Island Trust and the amount of,
So we'll keep that amount plus, and then we'll put a second line, and that this year's capital budget is
Be
increased to
1.7.
whatever that amount is, we'll double check all the numbers.
1.72 or whatever,
And
yeah.
that's gotta be approved by council.
Yeah.
Finance and then
Finance
also
and then
council as well.
okay.
That's
Correct,
Mike
yeah.
and again.
Yeah.
Okay, carry on.
Can't win, Mike.
Right?
That's you and I again, we can't win, can we?
Go ahead.
The next one is, this is the design work
Okay, here we
for
go.
our sidewalk and multi.
Chair, sorry, did you have a motion to that?
Oh, yes.
Move and second on the referral to,
I'll move.
council?
Well, I kind of, well, are we not going to move them all at once?
You can, sure.
That's what I was thinking of doing.
Oh,
Okay. Unless we have a disagreement with one of them or something, yeah.
We're good.
so
Okay.
The next one is the engineering services, so this is the design and contract tender documents for our sidewalk and multi-purpose paved pathways. We reviewed all the submissions and scored them accordingly, and Harborside had the highest score in the amount of $82,268.75, plus applicable taxes.
Any questions?
No.
All good? Hey, go ahead.
And then the final one is the pickup and disposal, compost, recyclables, and wastes for all municipal buildings in the amount of $3,200. Oh, I think there's an error on that one. That's per month. So we'll have to make that adjustment.
So
So
there's only one
Yeah.
tender in there.
only one submission, label construction, $3,211.96 per month it is.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so, we need a motion to recommend to finance the five resolutions that were in front of us with the change to the street resurfacing and the change to the pickup and disposal of month instead of year. And moved by Councilor Yankoff, seconded by Councilor Ramsey.
Just one quick question.
Sure.
On number 4, Scott,
Correct.
on the engineering services.
Yep.
So everything was based in points.
Everything was based
So
on points.
Price, we don't know, it's just, this is the price we'll be paying.
So we do know the prices after, so we score everything based on the proposals. We had 5 great proposals, as you can see.
Great
from the
companies
score.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All
all
good.
great companies. And at the end of the day, Harborside was also the low bid.
Yeah,
They had the lowest number, yep.
That's, I like how you did it this time.
Yep.
With the points.
But
Yeah.
it mightn't hurt to add that.
We can add the, if
That they
we
were the
want to add that
low bid.
Yeah,
information.
that'd be a question to ask.
Yeah.
Yeah, it probably might
We'll add that
well.
to, we'll add that to. the-
Yeah, just add it to the resolution, yeah. I
Yeah,
think
that's a great way to do it, just based
Yeah.
on the points.
Depends on
Give the
price
money
and they
check
so
it out.
happen.
Yeah,
we're
we do a
gonna-
2 envelope system on our keys
Yeah,
now.
good.
Okay.
Okay, so, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Good. And those against, none, see, passed. Okay, so, introduction of new business.
Just on the new business, sir.
Mr. Mayor.
Just kind of put signage.
Yeah.
I did speak to the engineer about the, chief engineer about the signage for the city.
Hey.
What are we doing with the signage for the old city?
The ones like you're thinking probably.
Corner of Queen and
Yes.
Houston.
Yeah, we have, that is on our list to have a look at and update them as well, get them
Okay.
kind of cleaned up. We've been kind of talking with CDC as well, or not CDC, sorry, Downtown Charlotte County.
Yeah.
About those as well, the waste management signs, and I actually just met with Don the other day about getting that information, some of that information, I know they were kind of the lead on that project way back in the day, so we do look.
And the kiosks that are on the corners here,
Mhm. We usually paint them up and.
are
get
they
them
our
on.
responsibility?
We do maintain them, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we usually paint them up every couple of years and replace the plexiglass if it's been quite scratched
And
up.
this is another issue I brought up, Mr. Chair. It was at police with, and Councilor Ramsey was there. On stop signs, that goes through here, then to police, or is it back and forth?
And so it comes to here, we will consult with them, but from the terms of reference, it's through.
Public Works.
Public Works.
Could I ask, I know I was speaking to our bylaw enforcement officer, and I know Councilor Duffy, and I know this corner quite well, corner of Ambrose and McGill. Could we review that, if that stop sign could be reinstated?
We can have another.
I know
look.
Councilor Duffy, you and I have, it's been ongoing.
And I think even I.
And I know
Yeah.
our bylaw enforcement officer said that, maybe it's time to review this
Yeah,
corner.
because it was there at one time.
I know the traffic is no longer parked at the corner, so that's been alleviated, that issue.
Yeah.
Are you all right with that, Councilor Duffy? It's
No
just,
problem whatsoever.
Yeah, good, okay.
Can I ask a question on new business, even though we didn't?
Yeah,
I guess the committee all has to decide.
yeah.
we agree. I
Yeah.
agree.
I guess as long as committee's okay with it.
I already talked to the chair about this, and it was in conjunction to the road going down to the yacht club, and the complaints that I've been getting from the Ward 1 people about the potholes and they're trying to get their boats down. I just thought maybe we'd update the committee.
Okay, as of, I haven't followed up today, but as far as I understand, there was going to be some aggregate or something filled in the holes. So the boats have been having trouble getting, due to the, I think some of the construction and everything that's going on down there, some of the bigger boats, they were getting a little tippy and they were a little nervous, so they had asked if we could put something in the holes, and I believe,
Is that our street?
yeah, so I believe Joey was gonna put something short-term
Yeah,
in there
no,
this morning, I think, and I'm sure if he said it is, it'll be done, so, as far as I know.
Okay.
Yeah, some of the boat owners were quite nervous that they might tip over, and then that's a mess we wouldn't wanna get into either, so. So that's, so if we don't hear any more, it's been done.
Jerry,
Thank you very much.
You got another meeting? or-
Yes, we have another meeting. Now, so do we need to deal with that closed session today?
We would, if we have time for even a brief discussion, just get some.
Okay.
Well, I'm
Direction
chair
to
of the
be.
next meeting committee, so I.
Mr. Chair.
Okay. Okay, so we'll be moving ahead into
Yeah, well, you're big,
We'll
you're-
give you a second or two anyway, right? Okay, so, I'll need a motion then to move into a closed session as per section 119, subsection E of the PI Municipal Government Act. Moved by Councilor Ramsey, seconded by Councilor Duffy.
Stand by, please.
Stand by for 3 minutes. I think I might have to do number 1 too. or 2.